Hello, friends. This is the question and answers of Thought and Life, the book by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier, Chapter 2, Our Will. As you know, we've recorded it beforehand because the book is guidelines for life. So it's very straightforward. It's not like the other books we've been studying together that has stories, not like a romance or something, right? Novel. It's different. It's a book that gives us guidelines. So, this chapter today is about our will. The previous chapter is about the mirror of life. For our friend Sunshine, who was asking, I know I answered through the Facebook, but I want to take the opportunity of bringing a question that she made in a comment to the Facebook of chapter 1 to clarify for everyone, okay? All right. Okay. It begins by talking about in chapter 1 the mirror of life. The mind stands as the mirror of life in all places. In defining the mind as the mirror of life, we recognized the heart as the reflection and the brain as the center of its undulations, generating the force of thought that can move, create, transform, destroy, and rebuild. So here we have an opportunity for all of us to think about our mirror of life, our mind, yes. Our thoughts, the mental contents, they set the stage for emotional reactions, and they create ideas. Ideas create attitudes. Words command our actions. So it's very important for us to be fully aware of what we're thinking, because we connect. The mental reflex is at the core of life. In chapter 2, Carlos tells us, he read it, Emmanuel's text, right? Hello, Melissa. Let me read the chapter just so we have some start for the Q&A. Our will. We can compare the human mind, which is the living mirror of awakened consciousness, to a large office subdivided into several departments. In it, we find the department of desire, where purposes and aspirations are at work, stimulating us to activity. The department of intelligence, which expands evolutionary and cultural assets. The department of imagination, slowly joining together the reaches of ideals and sensitivity. The department of memory, where archives of our experiences are kept, and yet other departments that define the many functions of the soul. But all of these, however, the most important of all these is the cabinet of the will. The will is the enlightened and vigilant manager that supervises all sectors of our mental activities. As if it were a luminous aura, divine providence conceded will to reason only after the being had laboriously traversed through the dark regions on its multi-millennial journey. In order to consider the importance of will, it is enough to remember that it is the helm of all kinds of driving forces incorporated in our knowledge. Electricity is dynamic energy. Magnetism is static energy. Thought is an electromagnetic force. Thought, electricity, and magnetism join together in all the manifestations of universal life, creating gravity and affinity, assimilation and dissimulation in the multiple fields of form that are used by the Spirit in its pilgrimage to reach the supreme goals outlined by the divine plan. However, will is the decisive factor. It is the powerful push button which decides upon the movement or inertia of the machine. The brain, the dynamo which generates mental energy according to its own capacity of reflection. The brain is the dynamo which generates mental energy according to its own capacity of reflection. However, within the will, we have the control which directs the thought capacity in this or that way, so establishing causes that will determine the problems of destiny. Without the will, desire may err and go astray, incurring debts, requiring centuries of suffering and restitution. Intelligence may be caught in the vices of criminality. Imagination may create dangerous monsters of darkness, and memory, although faithful to its function of registering what it receives in conformity with the destination given to it by nature, it may fall into deplorable neglect and inefficiency. Only will is sufficiently strong to sustain the harmony of the Spirit. Of course, it cannot stop mental reflections whenever these are produced by contacts with others, because attunement is an unbreakable law, but it can impose disciplinary control over the elements it governs so as to maintain them cohesive in the service of goodness. I know it's a lot, it's only a page, can you believe it? But it has all of it. So let's go first to the previous chapter, the mirror of life. It's all about hello sunshine. Thank you so much for your question. It's good that we recap because these are laws of life. So Emmanuel states that the mind is the mirror of life. Why? In the sense of like we send, we emit, and we're gonna receive the counterpart. So it's impossible for us to think something without receiving the counterpart of it. That's why he's using the analogy of the mirror. So whatever we're seeing, we have created it. So I think, Sunshine, you got it right in your comment. It's just that the phrasing probably was different, but it's the same. I think you got exactly what Emmanuel meant. Thank you. Hello, Rita Di Cassia. And it's interesting because in the second chapter, he's going to say that if the mind is this living mirror of our awakened consciousness, then our will is the manager, enlightened and vigilant. Meaning, we really need to go back to the resources of, that we have of our will to do what we need to do. And here he tells us that we can only work upon the level of evolution we have at hand. Okay? So it's like a child who is 3 trying to do things of a child who is 10. They can think of it, but physically maybe they don't have the same motor control. Spiritually speaking, it's like that. When we wake up and say, oh, I would love to help people in the world every day. But when we're going to do it, it's like we're just like the 3-year-old trying to do something that our 10-year-old is used to doing. We try and we're like stumbling. We haven't acquired enough muscle. We haven't acquired enough resources and experience to actually go there. Should we stop? Mm-mm. Should we keep aiming at it? Yes. Effort and repetition. and one day we're going to get there. So when we look around and we see people that have beautiful abilities, you know, that is telling us about the divine potential that has blossomed over time through a lot of effort and repetition. The will of that person was directing the development of such virtues. Will is everything. Emmanuel, if I could summarize, and I don't want to be, Mentor Joseph is here to help us, but we don't want to be pretentious when we're saying a summary of a whole beautiful, deep chapter. But it's as if he's saying, Emmanuel, in this chapter, the will is everything. So if you want to change your life, adjust your will. Go there and fine-tune it, right? Oh, I know, Rita. We're doing this at Cardiac Radio for now, okay? Hello, Rudy. It's good to have you here, too. But through the millennia, he says, we acquired enough tools to actually get to this point of this powerful push button. You know, it's interesting. You go to, it just reminded me, when you go to Amazon.com, now they have these dash buttons. Maybe that's what they call. Maybe dash button. Dashboard. No, not dashboard. Dash button, maybe. I know it's something about a product that you may buy frequently, at more a commercial level, of course. And they say if you buy it, if you acquire that, you don't need to order online. You just push it, and the order comes through. Isn't that amazing? So, in that analogy, our will is like that powerful push button. Ping! You click, and shoo, things unfold. Is it like this? Of course it is. In the book Genesis, Kardec talks about this. He says that our will is going to be like hands managing the energetic clay of life. It depends on our will. That's why we need to be a little more less paternalistic when we see people that are failing, and you're like, oh, poor them. No. If they want to work on it, they can. They can. And we need to empower them. Look at Jesus. He was never like, oh, I'm so sorry. You cannot do this. He was not rough, but he was not carrying anybody who didn't want to be carried. That's the difference. Hello, Doris. That's beautiful. Meanwhile, we're here in this virtual center, right? And you're right, Rita. Little bit with God is too much. Yes, when you want to do something for someone, you're right. And, you know, we're here for one another. It makes us all feel better, right? It's nourishment for our souls. So, friends, look at this opportunity here. The powerful push button of our will. It's the beginning of a new year, and people are like, where do I begin? Begin with your will. Goodwill. No wonder. When we talk about charity, go to the Gospel according to Spiritism. Gospel according to Spiritism. It says, without charity, there's no salvation. So if people want to get out of the problems, they need to focus on charity. What is charity? Charity, according to the Spirits, if we go now to the Spirits book, the foundational book, when Kardec in the Law of Justice, Love and Charity, which is the last paragraph of part 3, the question was like, what is the definition of charity? And they say charity is first and foremost benevolence towards everyone. Benevolence, the word benevolence means volens, will. And bene, good. Goodwill towards everyone. Goodwill towards everyone. It means that if let me give you, like, without the religious connotation, but the respect, if Chico Xavier comes here, comes visit you, and somebody whom you don't know visits you for some other reason, you're gonna treat them differently? Of course, Vanessa. But if they ask you for something they need, are you gonna treat them differently? No. Why? Because I need to have goodwill towards everyone. I may treat them differently in the way like I don't know the other person. I'm still learning about the person. But if I need to offer something to them that they need, am I gonna make less effort because this person is not Chico Xavier? If I say, yes, I haven't learned the first step of charity. So if you would give the world to this person, but if the other one asks you, you wouldn't give, then we're not doing step number 1 of charity. Goodwill towards everyone without exception. It's not but the people you know, you don't know, you just disregard them. No, no, no. And they go further. They say, and if people have imperfections, you are kind to them. Indulgent. Kind. Kind. They drop the ball, and we're kind. And the third, forgive offenses. When you're being abused, these other elements are pretty hard. We may forgive, but not necessarily allow the abuse to go on. There's a difference here. I may forgive the person, but say, this is the limit. I'm not going to allow this to happen anymore, because there's self-love too. But I'm not going to be resentful. So there is that difference, right? It's a very fine line. It's very difficult sometimes to know where to actually, know the limit and the boundary. But of all things, Jesus taught us kindness, 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 kindness. Right? So here, only will is sufficiently strong to sustain the harmony of the spirit. This is amazing. It's so revolutionary. Only will can sustain our harmony. So then we can ask the reverse. If I am not finding harmony, is it because I'm not using my will? And the answer would be yes. It's not that I'm not using my will, but I'm not having goodwill before life. It's like people, they don't have a job. But why don't you have a job? Oh, you don't have a job because I want to do this kind of job. Well, but somebody's offering you another one. But look at Paul of Tarsus. He couldn't go on as the doctor of the law. He became a weaver. That's how it is. So we're talking about harmony of the spirit, being driven, literally driven. It's like a car. The car of our minds has the wheels, and the wheels are our will. The wheel on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round, and the wheels of the mind. The wheels of the mind depend on will. Will. The wheels of our mind are our will. Yeah. We need to sing to keep it in mind, right, Melissa? Yes. So, he says, will is sufficiently strong to sustain the harmony of the spirit. I need to verify where I am. Yeah, we like quizzes, as Valeria Benfica said to me in an email today. The quizzes. Where are we regarding our will? We need to ask. Oh, Carol Correa, thank you for your message. I know you love the song. Thank you, Rita. I like singing too. It's fun, especially these children's songs. They make us feel lighter, right? Hello, Renata. And you know, this is interesting because will can sustain our harmony. So here we have a key expression. If we're not finding harmony, we need to go to the direction of our life. Will. Let me give an example. The other day I was talking to someone who's dear to my heart. And she was saying, in Brazil, she said, you know, I'm incurring such a problem because I want to go and sleep in my bed, but I end up sleeping in the couch. Okay, will. The driving force of the will. So do you really want to sleep in your bed first? Because if you did, you would go. So the question would be, what are you gaining? We need to verify what is the advantage of being there in front of a TV and sleeping in the couch in front of the TV. Because there must be something. Otherwise, our will would guide us to a different direction. So if we want to change this direction, and people talk about, I want to change a habit, it's like we're driving right, and then we need to drive to the left. If you want to do that, we need to talk to the will, which is the will of the mind. The will is the will, right? So we need to talk to the will. Why do you want to do this? Sincerely, it's inner knowledge. Let's be sincere. What is it the advantage in keep doing this? No, but I don't want to. No, but you're doing it. If you're doing it, it must have some advantage because there is the law of preservation. And the law of preservation is not the external preservation. It's the preservation of the mind. It's the preservation of ourselves. So, what is making me feel safer here? Because we're still more instinctive than anything else. What is making me feel secure in this scenario? Even people who are drug addicts. People say, I want them to change. No, there must be something really secure, psychologically speaking, for them to keep feeding themselves in that habit. Many of them, they share at the end of the day that it's about the community feeling, the affection, this strong bond. How can you beat that strong bond that exists amongst drug addicts? Some parents come to me and say, but I love them. Not exactly the way he or she wants to be loved. Because they are finding the complement elsewhere. Not to give guilt to the parents, but saying, if you really want to help your child, you need to know your child better. And most often than not, parents don't know. Because they don't observe, they're too busy. And it's not only about parents, it's about friends. It's about community. We lack the understanding of one another. And we most often, we do to others what we wouldn't like others to do to ourselves. That's the reality. Most part of the day, majority of people on earth do to others what they would never in life want to receive from anyone. But there are excuses. I know this man, he said to me, I was driving somebody to a station, And somebody said, why are you wasting your time if this person is using to take a bus? You see the logics? The logics is like, this person is used to take a bus. Why am I gonna bother and make his life easier taking him or her there? That's not loving others as we'd like to be loved. And then the question is, if you were this person who usually takes a bus, would you like that one day somebody takes their car and drive you to a station? Of course. So the conclusion is, of course, we're going to go and drive this person to the station. Right? But the reality is, most often than not, people don't do it because we have something wrong in our logics. Our thinking is not processing well. Why? Because we don't understand how the mind works. Most often than not, we think that person lives in a slum. They're used to that. If I give them a big house, they're not gonna know how to take care of it. Okay, now let me ask you a question. If you were living in the slum and somebody tells you, would you like to live in a decent house? Would you say, no, please don't give it to me because I wouldn't know how to take care of it? Would you like that somebody judge you that incapable? And that's how we are. Our logics are twisted. And that's why we make these big mistakes. As Emmanuel says here, you know, if we don't use our will, our desire is going to make mistakes. And we are going to incur in debts that will take us in suffering for centuries. And centuries of reparation. Thank you, Rudy, that your will is to be here, Kardec Radio. It feels like Christmas, right? It's still like Christmas. Yay! And Sunshine is sharing with us, at a certain age, the teenager developmentally looks to his friends for love and approval as they need to individuate from the parents. The more we parents try to fulfill their needs at their age, the more they tend to pull away. Yeah, you're right, Sunshine. We need to know how to back off, right? And allow them to create. It's hard for us. We need to work a lot on our ego to allow them and not take it personal. It's not that they don't love us. Remember us? We loved our parents, and we would have loved if our parents knew that we loved them, but we were at the time that we needed some time for our individuation. As Sunshine is so masterfully summarizing here, the problem is the clash begins when our ego as parents is so big and takes it so personal that we don't allow them to give their time. For example, they don't need to be teenagers. For example, the other day, I had wonderful friends here who are like family for us. Virginia saw and said, come here to my bedroom, I want to show you how I dance, blah, blah, blah. And I was coming too, and she said, but not you, Mom. And she's only 3, Sunshine. She's not even 13. I know, it's the teenage years. But I didn't take it personal. I was not sad like, oh my God, Virginia, she didn't want me. I understand that she needs that space for herself. It's a space psychologically. I know she loves me, and she knows I love her, and we don't need to be symbiotic to love each other. And I need to use my will not to allow my ego to be hurt unnecessarily, because the bottom line is that we take offense. We take offense. So here Emmanuel is saying the consequences of not using our will are, 1, He goes to the department of the mind. Department of desire. He says at the beginning, it's where the purposes and aspirations are working, so we stimulate to activity. He says, if our will doesn't give it direction to our desires, we're going to incur in debts and suffer sometimes for centuries and have to repair for centuries. Like, for example, somebody commits suicide today, it's going to take them at least 200, 400 years, average or more, to start fixing everything. The consequences are enormous. If we don't use our will to manage our intelligent department, we may incur in vices of criminality, he says. So true. There are so many people who are so smart, and you say, man, they end up being drug dealers. Like, if they just use that same intelligence to do something better for themselves and others. But their will was weak. They didn't have goodwill. If we don't use our will, says Emmanuel, to operate, manage the department of imagination. What is the department of imagination? He says it's like the reaches of ideals and sensitivity. If we don't consciously use our will to manage our ideals, our sensitivity, what's going to happen? We're going to create dangerous monsters of darkness. So when you turn on the TV, not only at Halloween, and you see these horror movies, these are people who have a lot of imagination, but they didn't use their goodwill to drive it. But also ourselves. It's not only the movies. It's about when we create monsters of jealousy, monsters of envy, monsters of hatred, imagining the bad instead of having goodwill. If I look at people and I say, well, they're children of God, I trust that sooner or later they're going to get out of it. Right? So we're not going to engage into creating these monsters. It's so interesting that Mentor Joseph is saying that in relationships, marriages, when we don't direct our reaches of ideals and sensitivity with our goodwill, we can create a lot of monsters of darkness in our relationships. Because we don't have goodwill. The harmony of the Spirit's not present. We are opening the doors for other minds who likely don't have good use of their will either. And we're on the same page. As Melissa is saying here, I don't have kids, but I believe we all have a need to control the situation. It's our goodwill in action. We are perhaps lacking compassion or empathy. You're right. I think you're right, Melissa. Hello, Carol, my friend. Welcome, welcome, dear soul, to you and everyone. So, friends, one more, huh? Another department of the mind, memory. What is memory? All the archives. We need to use our will to manage, to supervise it. Supervise the memories you're filing. If you keep filing bad memories, you've watched the movie Inside Out. You should. Because it's a beautiful analogy. If we keep filing, archiving, our will has to go there and say, no, I prefer to trash out this memory that doesn't serve a purpose. But Vanessa, how do I forget something that I know? Science already proves to us that we can do it by creating a healthier memory and leaving that alone. If I keep recapitulating, I'll never forget. But to displace it, It's law of physics. If I have an object here, like this book is here. If I want to displace it, I go take another book. And shh, they can't stay in the same place, right? So if I want to displace this, I take another one. And, oh, I want this to be here. My will is going to make effort, give the direction. So I say, that memory is out because this better memory is in. And purposefully, just so we don't bother with the titles. They seem alike, but they're different. And the content is quite different. Both are powerful. One book is Joana de Anjos and another is Emmanuel. Powerful, but different. If I want to change, I want to displace, I need to drive that mental electromagnetic force, which is our thought, to another direction. That's it. And even science has proved to us. Even traumatic memories. With your use of will, my use of will, I can displace and say, you know, I prefer to live a healthy life. But we need to make effort, which is using our will. I know many people who had very difficult experiences in childhood. If you see how they are blossoming nowadays, you would never tell. Look at Chico. He had difficult childhood. Look at the outcome. He allowed the north of our Master Jesus to be the GPS of his will. And he was driving the car of the mind to that direction. And that's us. If I say the GPS is there, the Christ consciousness, it's going to give me the direction for the will. So the question, so we never go wrong, is always, if I were that person, what would I like that somebody did to me in this situation? What would I like that they have done? Oh, but, no, there's no but. It's very objective. What would I like? And he says, it cannot stop mental reflections whenever these are produced by contact with others because attunement is an unbreakable law. So will cannot stop the mental reflections. This is quite interesting. Hello, Tanya. Hello, Angelita. Let's get back here. Attunement is an unbreakable law. So he's saying, will is strong to sustain the harmony, but it cannot stop the mental reflections from being produced in contacting others. For example, people come and say, but Vanessa, the spirits are obsessing. I know. They do really obsess us. The connection was made a while ago. What can we do? We cannot change because it's already an effect. But I can go and change the cause. So, I need to study myself. What is literally making these spirits upset? What is it? Oh, that I am too vain, that I am too lazy, that I am too egotistic. Okay, I'm going to work on it. And he says, but will can impose disciplinary control over the elements that it governs so as to maintain them cohesive in the service of goodness. Hello, Adilson. It's good to be here together, right? So here we have the use of our will can sustain our harmony, but it cannot stop mental reflections. Meaning, I think, I project, and it's out. Emission, and we're gonna have connections and effects. Will cannot change the effects, but I can change and govern how I'm gonna administer this effect so I don't keep generating those reflections. Let me give you an example. I know you may have others, but let me share this with you. Mentor Joseph is saying, it's about somebody who was in jail and then freed. Now it's time for them to begin anew, very hard. Find a job. You know, it's that journey of being reliable again and people trusting the person. It's very hard. And the person says, oh, but people don't believe me. How am I going to begin? I need to discipline what? My ego. How can I demand that the world gives me a chance when I have created a mess? I can't demand anything. And this is us. We are reincarnated. We are suffering the effects of our previous behaviors. And can we now simply say, but how come the world is doing this to me? I mean, it's a consequence of our choices, mental reflections. But people don't understand me. Don't they see that I'm doing the good? Well, keep doing the good and people will see it. Just don't expect anything for now. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. We need to detach not only from material things, but from this egotistic feeling that people need to appreciate us, they need to acknowledge us, and that's not to allow ourselves to be abused, but to demand that people understand us, love us, like us. It doesn't make any sense. So here we have will to sustain our harmony and allowing us to create discipline over our mental elements so we can work for the goodness. That's the direction, the Christ consciousness. Loving God above all things, loving others as ourselves. Loving God above all things, loving others as ourselves. We literally need to work on this. Literally. We need to work on this aspect. Tomorrow when we come back, we're going to talk about cooperation. Remember, this is like 30 chapters that summarize in the schools of regeneration, guidelines for safe reincarnation and accomplished reincarnation. First is the foundation, understanding that here we create our lives. And thus our will gives the direction. Now we're going to learn a fundamental element that with the mental electromagnetic force, we make connections, associations, and thus the power of cooperation. Just to give you a teaser, may I give you a teaser? In between the chapter for tomorrow, in our innermost world, our will is as the captain who cannot afford to neglect his duties. Okay? Just as an administrator needs the help of good and honest co-workers, likewise, will cannot do without ponderation and logic as respected counsel in the good decision-making processes. And we're going to talk about cooperation means constructive collaboration in order to be able to face challenges and wholehearted help so as to put deprivation behind us. Yeah! No deprivation, including sleep deprivation. I'm joking with you. So we're not going to sleep deprive anyone any longer. Yeah. So we are going to stop here for today, because the goal is 30 minutes of the pre-recorded with the concise message and explanation, and this part as our exchange. What would be a good exercise, therapeutic exercise for this day before we go to chapter 3? Since it's about the driving wheel of our lives, our will, the wheel of life is our will. Maybe singing the wheels on the bus this whole day. No, I'm joking. No, it's not about singing wheels on the bus. It's about doing what? Observing which direction we are giving to our thoughts. Because we need to identify where our will plays a role in our lives. Okay? Observe it. Let's observe during the day. Okay? For example, we think something. What am I gonna do now? And then I verify. My will is pointing to the direction. Rest or study. Why? If I rest, well, it pertains because now it's midnight and my duties are fulfilled for the day. But tomorrow I may change my mind, because when the sun rises, I am being invited to use my will to do something else other than sleep, right? As simple as that. But let us observe the direction of our thoughts, as Melissa is kindly summarizing to us. Great. Meanwhile, the wheels of the mind don't go round and round, because we want to be focused on God and Jesus. Go up and up, up and up. The wheels of my mind go up and up to God. And that's the end. Big kiss, big hug, lots of gratitude. Thank you, friends. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for this opportunity, the nourishment for our souls. And God allowing, until tomorrow.